revenge, or as we say in my native tongue, heaven. Which one sounds more menacing? Hi there, I'm Roux. Welcome to my video. Are you having a nice Friday? I hope so. I hope you're having a nice Friday and that you had a nice week. With that said, let's get our revenge on. With these stories.
So you think you can sneak?
The case of the missing firewood. Fake review. AT&T. And secrets. The Case of the Missing Firewood by J. Stark, 1994. Is someone a Game of Thrones fan? This happened when my grandfather was growing up in rural Kansas in the 40s and 50s, and is one of my favorite stories from him. Story. When my grandpa was growing up, he didn't have electricity, this being rural Kansas. What they did have was a wood-burning stove. At one point, firewood that great-grandfather had been storing began to disappear. A thief was afoot. My great-grandfather, getting tired of the firewood disappearing, hatches a plan. Great-grandfather takes some of the logs and drills them out, leaving a cavity. He then puts some gunpowder in the cavities and plugs the holes to hide his handiwork. That night, he tells my grandpa that he would bring in the firewood. Of course, he knows what logs he's messed with. Now, this is the funny part, and I wish I knew how embellished it was, but honestly, stranger things have happened. The next day, great-grandfather is walking into town and comes across a gentleman also headed into town, and they get to talking. It turns out, the gentleman is going into town to make a purchase. The item he seeks, a new stove. He says to my great-grandfather, "I don't know what they're putting in the cold these days, but it destroyed my stove." No wood ever went missing again. Karma's a bitch. That was just so satisfying. So satisfying. Next! Fake review. Restaurant scams me for fake Google reviews. I burn their Google reviews page/reputation to the ground and get media to cover it. Ooh. Hi folks. First post here. Thought it would definitely fit. I mean, burning things to the ground definitely sounds like it. So about a month ago, I applied for a sushi restaurant called Yoshi's, and I got a text from their hiring manager. And we chatted about my availability, location, start date, yada yada. She then asked me to write a review of general Japanese food to show I knew what I was talking about and could upsell customers. Fine. I write a long review and send it to her. She then sends me a tiny link URL and tells me to post it there before I would be invited for an interview. I click it, and what do you know? It's the Google page for a whole different restaurant all the way across the city. So I read the reviews, and they had done this to 30 or so people in the last 2 weeks at the different locations franchised to the same crazy owner. I was pissed, to say the least. This happened peak COVID in my state. People are unemployed at staggering rates, struggling to feed their families, and these assholes are scamming potential hires for fake reviews. Being unemployed, I had some time on my hands, so I screenshotted our combo and posted it all over social media. They went from a rating of 3.4 to 1.2 in a few hours, with more than 70 new reviews about their shitty behavior. I was satisfied with that, and report to the Attorney General here. But then I noticed the owner had managed to get all the reviews removed, so at that point, I went full nuclear. I contacted every media outlet, reported them to every oversight board, emailed corporate about it, and reported them to Google. I managed to get one of our local news outlets to cover it, and Google ended up removing all of their reviews altogether. Scam me and countless others during a global pandemic? I ruin your business's reputation for your shitty behavior. Quite delicious, that one. Next! AT&T. AT&T tries to screw me over $139. I actually screwed them out of $72,000. After my wife and I got married last year, we decided that we would both get on the same phone plan. We went down to the AT&T store and met with a prep who told us we'd both be on an unlimited plan for $70 a month, all in, including taxes and fees. I was very specific about getting the all-in price for the service. It seemed like a decent deal, so we signed up. 2 days later, I log into the website and see that there's already a bill for $139. I call up a rep to see what's up, and they tell me that between the activation fees, taxes, and surcharges, the bill was correct. I told them what the salesperson told me, and they basically told me to pound sand. I promptly told them I wanted to cancel the service and wanted the $139 waived. They said they could cancel the service, but could not/would not waive the bill. They also told me if I canceled immediately, my wife and I would lose our phone numbers, which is true. So I figure since I already have to pay for the month and I don't want to lose my phone number, I will just get a new carrier and cancel when I'm ready. So I do my research and find Visible, which is excellent, and we make the switch. I call back to AT&T and inform them that we have switched carriers and want to cancel the service. I ask again for a refund. The rep informs me that since I have had the service for 4 days, that I am not entitled to a refund. He tells me to read the fine print on the contract, which indeed tells me that I have 3 days to cancel for a full refund. I am now fuming because the first CSR that I talked to on day 2 denied me a refund if I canceled. I ask for the next level of CSR and they send me to a customer care and retention person. I explain the entire fiasco to him and how I feel that I have now been lied to twice by AT&T reps, sales rep, and first CSR. He is a really cool guy and apologizes and says he'll take care of it and will completely waive the bill. I am very thankful and hang up thinking that this is finally resolved. Fast forward a month and I get an AT&T bill in the mail saying that my payment was not received and is now late. I again pick up the phone and call AT&T. I eventually make my way through 2 CSR reps until I get back to the customer care and retention department. This time, I did not have the chill dude. Instead, I got a very swarmy woman who said that the bill was due and I'd owe the entire amount. I asked her to please check the CSR notes and that the last guy told me he would waive the amount. She put me on a 10-minute silent hold and came back and said she'd escalate the matter to her supervisor. She said I should receive an email by the end of the week with a resolution. 2 weeks go by, no response. I call again. This time I get a very nice lady that is sympathetic. She said she'll waive the bill. She comes back and tells me that she can't do anything because the bill has already been sent to collections. She said not to worry and that she'll send a letter to collections and have them waive the debt. I ask if this will go on my credit report and she says no, and that they'll take care of it. 6 months later, I get a letter in the mail from Sequium Asset Solutions out of Georgia trying to collect on the $139. I immediately send them a letter via certified mail demanding that they verify the debt since it's obviously bad. I hear nothing for 2 months and then I get an alert that I have a negative mark on my credit. I go in and sure enough, Sequium has indicated that the amount is in collections. I immediately write letters to all 3 bureaus requesting that they remove the remark. A month goes by and every single one of the bureaus removes the mark, thank God. Another 3 months go by and then I get a letter from Sunrise Credit Services in New York, again trying to collect on the debt. This is truly unbelievable, because it appears that Sequium couldn't verify it, so instead of apologizing and waiving the debt, they just sold it off to another collection agency. I send another certified letter to Sunrise demanding verification. I get nothing in reply. So far, they have not attempted to put a mark on my credit. This is where this part of the story ends. Who knows what will happen next? I could file a lawsuit, but the filing fee alone would be more than the amount owed. Here's the thing, I'm not cash strapped. I am blessed enough that I could easily pay the $139 without making a dent in my budget. I have lost 5 times that amount in hours spent on the phone and writing letters. But I am determined to go to the mat with AT&T on principle alone. This brings us to the revenge stage. Oh, yummy, yummy, yummy. You see, in addition to my day job as an attorney, I am an elected city councilman in my town. And when I was going over our monthly expenses, I noticed that we were paying AT&T close to $6,000 a month for our phones, internet, and TV services. We're a fairly small town, so it was pretty obvious that we were being bent over by these clowns and that we could save a ton of money by switching. I started working with our city manager and IT director on finding other solutions. We discovered that by switching to various carriers and providers that we could save half. I never would have looked that closely into our telecom expense had AT&T not jerked me around. 2 weeks ago, the resolution to switch was put on our meeting agenda and the council voted to pass it. We decided to completely cut ties with AT&T. Our city is saving a ton of money, getting better service, and with the money we saved from switching, we were able to hire another part-time animal shelter employee, which we desperately needed. I highly doubt our city would have considered switching if I didn't make such a stink about it. AT&T will end up losing hundreds of thousands over the coming years because of this.
I hope it was worth it, AT&T.
Makes me so happy that it went to an animal shelter, though. Yay! Like, I don't live in America, but even I have only heard terrible things about AT&T. They really need to get their shit together. Next!
Secrets are no fun. Secrets hurt someone.
My dad had an affair with his BFF's wife. So, my dad had an affair with his BFF's wife, let's call her Jane. She claimed she was pretty much in love with my father, and of course her husband didn't know. I found out because once I got a Facebook Messenger message from a fake account telling me that my father was banging his BFF's wife. I actually didn't care, my parents are divorced since 2005. The problem was that someone unknown was sending my mother text messages, telling her to leave my father alone, and many offensive things. We let it slide for a while, but then those anonymous text messages became a daily thing. We confronted my dad and he confessed that he was sleeping with Jane, but he said she was not the one sending the messages. He said he was sure because Jane's husband was also getting those messages. My dad was practically blinded by her manipulations, and my mom and I had a really strong hunch that it was her. My dad got so mad after we suggested it that he stopped speaking to me and my mom for a while. I also got mad, but much more offended because he would not believe me. I mean, I had no reason to lie to him. Still, I let all that slide. But then, I got another anonymous message offending me, telling me I was just like my mother, and that's why my boyfriend had dumped me, and that we would be alone for the rest of our lives, and things like that. Then, I got really mad. I went to the cyber police, it's a thing where I'm from, and they tracked the source of the anonymous messages. It turns out that it was her, and she was also sending her husband messages because she was so desperate for the truth to come out so that she could be with my father. Although I think that just confronting her husband would have been better. What she really wanted was to distance my father from me and my mom. She was messing with my family, so I decided to mess with hers, and sent the proof to her husband and her sons that she was behind the anonymous messages, and that she was, in fact, sleeping with my dad. I also showed my dad the proof and exposed her on Facebook. She was a saleswoman, so it did affect her. Her sons and her husband were so mad at her, she had to move out of the house, and my dad broke up with her as well. She was left alone, but I feel like that's what she deserved. Yeah. Also, Jane sounds, mentally unhinged. Like, why would she send her husband messages about it? Like, that's the most passive-aggressive shit I have ever heard. There is a country, and it's called passive-aggressiva, and Jane is the queen of it. Next!
So you think you can sneak?
Roommate thought she was sneaky, ended up owing me $400 and got suspended. So this happened my second semester dorming at my college campus. I had met my roommate at orientation and could kind of already tell she was going to be a pain in my ass. And I was right about that. I had planned on moving rooms to be closer to some of my friends the next semester. But let me get to the story that led to my revenge. On our campus, you had to pay for meals using your student ID, which had a certain amount of money on it each semester. You could also use an app that put your name and ID info into it, and it makes it easier to pay. But the name and ID must match for it to work, which will be important later. Any funds from the fall semester would roll over into the spring, but then at the end of spring, it would just expire. Because of this, and because I only ate once or twice a day, I had a ton saved up on my card. My roommate, on the other hand, did not. So I offered to pay for some of her meals from time to time in trade of her picking up the food for us, which involved her using my card twice in person and then she'd return it. Then, one day, I noticed on my app that my card was being charged even when I was not ordering food. And not just a meal, like meals for several people. This meant that whoever was ordering, I wonder who, either had to have stolen my ID card, which I had in my pocket when I got the charge, or was impersonating my info on the app, which are both big no-nos on my campus. I was quick to put two and two together, and I was pretty pissed. I was initially going to confront her on it, but decided to formulate a plan instead. That day, I went and ordered a second ID card for $25 to use for later. As it took a couple of weeks to get the new one, I let her charge several things to my card over a good 2 weeks, for her and her friends. She wasn't very good at hiding it either, as they would come to our dorm and eat, while I just screenshot and sent emails to the support team of the app about the charges, knowing nothing would get done until I contacted someone in person. And one day, it got even better, as you can buy groceries with the card off campus as well. She decided to pay for alcohol with my card, which doesn't get pinged as an issue on my card due to me being over 21, but she was only 19. Not sure how she got it, but it was just the thing to finally act on my plan. I put the best sad face on and contacted the head of campus living and head of my dorm about the charges on my account. I dropped some hints that it could be my roommate and mentioned I got a new ID and asked what I should do. I was told to order a new card, and once I got it, to deactivate my current ID and use the new one for purchases now, making my old ID have a balance of 0 and also to ping if someone uses it to buy something. They also told me they would be visiting my dorm to discuss the issue with my roommate. I accepted that and waited. They sent the confirmation email that they would be visiting, and I just decided to add more fuel to the fire. My roommate was groaning about not having the funds for food in front of me in our dorm. I told her I really couldn't help her as I was running low on funds, and she kind of just laughed it off and left the room to probably use my old ID. I deactivated my first card right after she left, and surprise, surprise, she used my info to pay. Except when she tried to pay for her and her friends this time, it was declined and it pinged that it was my ID that was being used. Campus security was called and she was escorted back to our dorm. Pretty much perfect timing for our meeting with campus living. She was scared shitless when they came to the dorm to talk to her and look through her stuff. On her phone, still logged into the app, was my ID information and name. And in her dorm closet was a half-full bottle of cheap vodka. And on my phone was a screenshot of said unauthorized vodka purchase. In the end, she was forced to pay me back all of the funds she used, in cash, reported for underage drinking, which automatically suspends you from campus living for at least a year, and would have to go on her record that she performed identity theft, which also I could have charged her for out of school. In the end, I got to have my own dorm for the remainder of that semester and even part of the semester after, because it wasn't put as an available room for new dormers. I did get all of my money back, from her parents, who were so embarrassed and apologized profusely. And when she did eventually come back to campus, no one wanted to dorm with her because they knew she had stolen her roommate's ID. I think in the end, she rented off campus. I feel like if I was her at that point, I would just like change colleges. Like, you're literally like known as a thief. Why would you think it's like you're gonna just get a do-over? That just, people are not gonna like you there. Like, what the? Yeah. She has a lot of flawed logic. And she got her just desserts. That's it for this time, you guys. I hope you had a wonderful time and that you enjoyed the revenge. The heaven. Do you like it? Norwegian? Revenge? Heaven. It's like Viking revenge. Heaven. I hope you liked it. Leave a like, leave a comment, all that jazz. Subscribe. Come here every Friday and soon every Wednesday too, because then I'll be posting even more videos. Oh yeah. Thank you so much to my wonderful patrons, Capra, Madalena Wurska, Cami, and Ellie. Thank you. See you later, alligator.